Anyone can follow. It takes something special to be an original, which is why the 2025 Lincoln Navigator SUV arrives with new ways of surrounding you in luxury, including the ultra-wide 48-inch panoramic display and the multi-sensory Lincoln Rejuvenate experience. A true original never stops evolving. So meet the 2025 Navigator, the original that's all new and better than ever. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Lincoln and Navigator are trademarks of Ford or its affiliates.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
For a limited time at McDonald's, get a Big Mac Extra Value Meal for $8. That means 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, and medium fries, and a drink. We may need to change that jingle.
Prices and participation may vary.
You're listening to United Rugby Rewind.
Hello and welcome back to the United Rugby Rewind podcast, the most memorable name of all rugby podcasts. My name is Hugh and I'm joined by all the usual people here today, Caelan, Lee, Ben and Alan.
Hi guys.
Evening.
Now,
you didn't say the Rugby ABC. You didn't use ABC.
Your name begins
Start
with L.
again.
You've messed
Start
it
again.
All in all.
The rugby club, the rugby
It's
lab
got to be
C.
the ABC Lee G. That's what I would do.
There you go.
There you go, see.
Right. So this weekend we're talking international footy, test footy, as the Southerners like to call it. But before we get into that, Lee G has got some news to share with us. So over to you, Lee.
Yeah, so I'm just here this evening really to say thank you and goodbye for a while. So we said a while ago that we wanted to get this pod up and running, and we did, and it's been a massive success. So my wife is now in need of my services while she has an operation and recovers from an operation. So it seems like a good time as we head into the international period to set the boat on its own, set the sails high and let it go. And you guys are more than capable of doing that. So I just wanted to kind of come and say thank you to you guys for getting it up and running and making it the success that it already is. I'll still be doing stuff in the background and I'll still be nagging you on WhatsApp and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah,
Producer Lee, as he's known in the women's pod group.
Amongst other things, yes. But I just want to say thank you to you guys and to everyone that's listened, because it's completely beaten everything that we ever thought that this pod could do already. So yes, that's pretty much it from me, guys. I just wanted to say thank you and toodaloo, I guess. So yeah, with that done, I'm gonna go now, guys.
Thanks, Lee.
See you soon, Lee. Take care.
Best wishes for everything.
Your best wishes with your family and everything, Lee.
Cheers, guys. I'll speak to you again. Ta-da.
See you later.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, and then there were 4, which is the normal number. So the URC pod then. So the way that it's going to work whilst we're in the test window is that we'll be talking about the URC nations. So that'll be Scotland, Ireland, Wales, Italy and South Africa. So we're not going to cover England games. We're not going to cover France games during this window, only the URC nations. Now, we're going to start off this week with, for all the people who think that the Irish run the URC and that we must bow down to all their demands, on this first weekend of test footy, we are beginning with Munster versus the All Blacks 15. So that's this week. I believe next week there's a Limerick under 10s game cover as well.
Can I just say, this is a URC podcast. Do you not start with the URC team? Does it not make sense? No? Or am I just, tinfoil hatting this or something?
Well, to be fair, we've been ignoring all those Edinburgh A games that have been going on all season. They've been great, Jack, so
Ben Healy hasn't been ignoring them, though, has he?
No,
bad night to be a Munster fan on this podcast.
So there were the New Zealand scraped together a team from the NPC and sent them over, and they absolutely battered Munster. Kaylin, tell us about it.
Again, that's not really entirely factually correct. It was a team of Super Rugby players, multiple capped All Blacks: Sean Stevenson, Quinty Playa, Harry Plummer, George Bauer, like guys who have played good top level international rugby. But whatever your agenda is, we can go along with that. No, look, this was an unbelievable spectacle contest. Everyone knows about the Munster New Zealand rivalry from 78, 2008, 2016, even prior to 1978 as well. And I think there's just something about days like this that just they are unique to rugby. They are unique to a club like Munster. Not every club side has played international teams. Not every club side has played, the likes of New Zealand. I know there's a club in Wales that have played the All Blacks before, but that's just because, again, Lee and Hugh have paid me to drop that in there in the middle of this conversation. But look, Munster absolutely nailed it from a spectacle point of view, the atmosphere point of view. It was brilliant. Full house, 26,000. I did some checking with staffmaster and host Hugh, and it would have been one of the highest attendances in the URC this season so far. I think second or third, or second if you exclude Croker, which is an anomaly. Also had Munster in it, by the way, and Stormers Munster is also in there. But anyways, just fuck it for the week that's in it. Really good game. If you seen the scoreline 38-24, you would have thought, oh yeah, like just way too strong. It was 24-26 with 3 minutes to go. Keenan Aholo scores a brilliant breakaway try. Then from there, it's one. Like it's in garbage time at that stage, and New Zealand add another when it just kind of opens up. But Munster, to their credit, were decent. No real scrum. It's the same issues we talked about before in terms of, they're without like 5 senior contracted props at the moment. Like it's a lot to unload. They know Jean Lane, who was getting minute managed. But a lot of young players stood up. Ruan Quinn off the bench was brilliant. I'll get to Peter O'Mahony in a minute. Finney Wycherley had one of his best games in years, I thought. Tony Butler was excellent off the bench. Evan O'Connell, the name O'Connell is synonymous with Munster. We already, we know that. Paul O'Connell is his nephew, and his first touch in professional rugby on his debut was winning a jackal turnover. And you can imagine the roar at that stage. That was led to Munster's fourth and final try and got them to within 2 points on the night. So, look, unbelievable event. Like, Munster did have Peter O'Mahony in there, which was probably the talking point coming into it. It looks like he'll be good to go for Friday for Ireland.
Does he just only play Test rugby? Is that just how it works with him now?
Maybe at this stage. To be fair, I think he would have retired last year if Andy Farrell didn't have a conversation with him. Likewise, Conor Murray. But he's been injured, came back in, and it was Ian Costello. It was asked of Ian Costello, the new Munster interim coach, about what's the story? Like, was he only supposed to play 40 minutes? He was only supposed to play 40 minutes, but he was excellent. I think if he starts for Ireland at the weekend, he probably has 60 minutes in him to empty himself and to have a big performance in that role. Because, again, I'm doing another podcast later on this evening about this. You'll always have the conversations about, well, if they're not good to go 80, there's no point. It's not 1970s rugby anymore. You can have a player to start to do 50 brilliant minutes, 50-30, 60-20. Hookers, that split is absolutely massive for teams. You look at South Africa, for instance, you look at Ireland. So I can see O'Mahony starting at the weekend potentially. Could still be on the bench, but I could see him starting. And just on that, for Munster, it has been a long week. I think the most commonly used phrase around home end was the longest short week in Munster history, because there was a bank holiday Monday to start things off, and then Tuesday hit like a bang. And a good kind of cathartic ending to things. Yes, the result was disappointing. Yes, it was in the balance, and it could well have went another way, but a lot of players played well. A lot of New Zealand players played well. It was a great standard of rugby. If anyone wants to watch it back, the highlights are on New Zealand Rugby on YouTube. There's some lovely tries. There's some great moments. And it's considering what rugby has gone through recently with attendances and money and the likes. The fact that Munster 26,000 people on for essentially a friendly, packed into Thomond Park, it's a positive. Like at the end of the day, that's a massive positive for any team, and it was a feel good factor. It was a good experience as well, and I think that's what I'll take away from this one in particular. It's not really about the result of the performance. It's about hopefully getting a few more people to enjoy rugby than what usually go, and that's kind of what we got.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of all of the history and things before this weekend, and I didn't realize kind of the depth of it until I saw that clip of, I don't know what year it was, I want to say 2008, of the Kiwi Munster players doing the haka to New Zealand for that clip. Like, if anybody hasn't seen that, I think it was Over the Hill, Proper Three Red Kings posted it.
Three Red Kings posted. It's of Doug Howlett, the Femi Mafi, Ruud and Jeremy Manning. They met the All Blacks haka with their own back in 2008, and it was special. Like, we don't see that too often. It was really, really special, and it's probably the moment that kind of solidified the connection between the two, because at the time, like, that was 2008. Doug Howlett was one of the biggest names in world rugby at that time. I know New Zealand had bombed out the World Cup a couple of months prior, but like, record try scorer still is. It was a great moment, and it continued in fairness in 2016. So just for anyone who doesn't know, we do know Anthony Foley passed away in 2016. A couple of months later, the Maori All Blacks come to Thomond Park, and to be fair, Ireland returned this favour a few years later. They laid out a jersey with Anthony Foley's name on it, a Maori All Black jersey with his name on it. And coincidentally, after Sean Manui's tragic passing 2 years ago, Ireland A did the same thing for New Zealand. I think there's been a buy-in from Irish teams to kind of buy into New Zealand culture. And I know we're not going to talk about New Zealand, England, but I think that's where the juxtaposition between, say, how Ireland have respected New Zealand culture and how England have is a little bit different. We're not going to get into that. I know that's outside of our remit for this week, but it is something that I'm proud of. And like, it was silent for the haka last night, which is cool, because I think you'd forget.
Is it supposed to be silent for the haka? Maybe, Alan, I'll bring you in on this. I know you're on mute, so don't forget to unmute yourself. But obviously, as South African, you've consumed a lot of All Blacks and New Zealand rugby. Is the crowd supposed to be silent, in your opinion, or do you think the crowd is supposed to get amongst it? I've heard, like, when I've, not for the haka, but when I saw Tonga, there were people in the crowd whooping and things, and apparently that's part of it as well. What's your view on that?
Well, I think going back, they've always done it. It's a traditional thing for them. But I always thought, when I was doing, like, from a sports perspective, that it gave them a bit of an advantage in the early stages of a game, because you're sitting there cooling off when they're going for it. But I think, as a general rule of thumb, as long as you respect it, and I know most South Africans definitely do, I don't think the All Blacks mind if you get into it with the crowd and that kind of thing. I know the DJs playing, there was a bit of an issue this year when the DJs were playing over it accidentally, but they acknowledged that was a mistake with the timings, because we've got this thing about flying Boeing jets over the stadiums, and it's hard to coordinate all of these things. I don't think the All Blacks generally mind. I think the South Africans are massive fans of the haka. The players definitely wanted to continue, and there is a degree of, they just line up and they watch it. And there have been quite a few of our biggest players who've acknowledged that it's just as much a motivating factor for us as it is for them. So if the crowd want to get into it, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. I think that they don't have a problem with it. It's when you're playing music. And I think there was one year when Wales told them they weren't going to allow them to do it. So they ended up...
Yeah, and they did it in the changing room, and then they came out and shoved our heads up our asses.
Yeah, so, they probably don't appreciate that, because, I mean, it is, as much as Buenos Aires tradition, there is an element of marketing to it now as well with their brand. And it's, if you compare how it was done in, like, the 50s and the 60s to how it was done now, it's much more of a spectacle, isn't it? So from a South African perspective, we don't mind watching it. I don't think the fans really, it's a good motivator for the players. I think the fans respect it to a degree, but I don't think we need to be silent for it. But I've noticed that some of the rugby games in Ireland, they're very, like Leinster, and I think Munster as well, a lot of the times they're quiet for the kickers too, which is also...
I think that's kind of, you talk about cultures and things, and we respect New Zealand culture, but I think the Irish rugby culture way of showing respect is to be silent in that moment. So I think that's fine. I like it in Wales when they do that. New Zealand do the haka against Wales. I love it when the crowd really kind gets loud. That personally, that's all part of the theatre for me. I don't like it when the English start singing Swing Low, especially when I'm 90% sure that they were playing Swing Low over the speakers rather than, because I've never heard it sung that clearly or loudly before.
And given the song's origin, it feels wrong. Like, it's very different to, say, the Welsh national anthem being sung, which often gets sung in those moments, or the Fields of Athenry gets sung in those moments. It's a very different song. Like, it's a song that Maro Itoje has asked them to stop singing on multiple occasions. So it's, there's that. But I think respect is, like, it's a good point to make, because the respect that Munster showed was that silence, and everyone had their phones out. There was a massive roar at the end of it and beforehand, and I think people know it's like, right, this is the haka. This is going to be cool. I get to see this. Get put it up on Instagram or whatever it might be, including myself. I did do that, but there's that element. But then there's also the kind of like being. It is just about the respect of doing it, and like, is it the same as respect for the kicker? Maybe not, but I do think it's something that I like that rugby does it, because rugby stretches to parts of the world that we don't often see in, say, football. In terms of the Oceania, the Pacific region, we don't see a lot of them in football. So I think to have this culture in rugby, I love it.
I will say as well, if I may, I've been to a few games now with like Wales, and I've watched a few games in Leinster, and a few games in Ireland and stuff. And what I do like about the Northern Hemisphere rugby is you guys do your you've got your songs. I know in Wales they used to sing the Tom Jones thing. I was a massive fan of that. In Ireland they do that. You've got these Gaelic songs and stuff like that. And Wales, they march out the band with the goats and all that stuff. I think that's really cool, because in South Africa it doesn't happen like that. You've got lots of music, you've got lots of beer flowing, and lots of. I'm not a massive fan of the ole 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 thing. I'm not a fan. I'm also not a massive fan of the Irish song that they've now taken to singing with the Rossi thing. I think there's much more South African or African songs they could be singing. But I do like the way you guys do your rugby. It's a completely different feel to how things go down in Pretoria, and I do love that about your game. The way you guys have your Gaelic singing, the Irish, I like that. That's not to say I would necessarily go along with it if it was in South Africa. I think, I like the way the South African rugby and the stadiums are, but I do appreciate the way you guys get into your rugby. It's a much more like, I don't want to say emotional build-up, but you've got a lot of history, and you guys do convey that when in your rugby. In South Africa, because of apartheid and stuff, our history is still relatively new. So, we're still like getting into it, but I do enjoy that about the Northern Hemisphere rugby and your stadiums, your amazing stadiums.
Yeah, there's probably a very interesting geopolitical, historical discussion to be had there, but unfortunately it's beyond the scope of this pod.
We'll wait till Tuesday night. I think it's the fairest time to do that.
I'm very watching all that with the Munster and New Zealand now, it makes me want the Scarlets to play Tonga, and then we could get our Tongan players to do the Sippy Tau back to Tonga. Is now a dream I have in my head. It'll probably never happen, but that would be awesome. We are seeing a lot more of these clubs against international B team kind of tour matches coming back now. I think is a way of generating revenue for the club teams, which I'm all in favour of. Like I said, I'd love it if the Scarlets did it. We tried to have another game against an All Black team, whether it be the Maoris or the All Black 15 a couple of years ago, but I think COVID put that off, and then the moment kind of passed, unfortunately. Okay, so is there anything else much to say about the Munster game then, Caelan?
Not really. I think, look, we talked about Munster's busy week on this podcast. We talked about their form and the injuries and different things. I think from watching what we've seen from Munster last night, I am still confident that if they can get the front five healthy, they will be fine. They will get back. Like, the attack is still doing well. I think, Ethan Cochran at scrum half, particularly, a very good game. Like their halfbacks are good. Their midfield access is good. But most impressive, I think, was the younger players. Munster had 6 academy players on the field, all of which 22 years of age or younger. Only 5 of them were on the field at any given time, because Ben O'Connor came on for Shane McCarthy. But they all played well. Like Ronan Fox dominating a carry. He's only 21. He played the Junior World Cup last year in 2023. Kieran Ryan, who I actually didn't know this, but the story was told on commentary. He you can see his house from sitting in one of the stands in Thomond Park. And like, that's kind of what these club games, I think we do lose sight of it every once in a while. We do lose sight of what, this kind of authentic, passion that can be there, and this connection. You had Evan O'Connell, who I mentioned the name, steeped in Munster folklore, was really good. He's still only 20. Ruan Quinn, brilliant. He's having a brilliant season. Munster's depth behind Peter O'Mahony and the flanks is just brilliant. It just is in Ireland in general. But that's what you want to see. I think that's what fans like. Look, the neutrals want a good game of rugby and whatever, and the kind of casual fans. But the hardcore fans do want to see younger players step up to the mark, especially in games like these. This is a free chance to kind of give it a lash kind of thing. And they did. And they played really well. Like, look, when Quinty Paya is, running all over you and guys like that, like, that's where the Gulfin standard will kick in. Even though I may have told a friend to back Sean Stevenson to score a try, and Sean Stevenson decided this is the 1 week he's not going to score. So I apologize for that one. But look, great atmosphere. I want to see us do more things like this. I said in the group chat earlier, I want to see, Munster playing tournament sides, Ireland A games taking place, because I think these games out of windows, they just take on a different vibe. I know Ireland A versus England A would be the same. You move that game to Cork or to Belfast or to Galway, games that don't get to see these games, or places that don't get to see these games more often. I think that's what rugby needs to do. They need the cash. So, and if fans are being priced out of going to national games, be it England, New Zealand, Scotland, South Africa, Ireland, New Zealand, I think this is a good chance to do something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, then we'll move on to the next game, which is the only test match that we're talking about this weekend, which is Fiji versus Scotland in Scottish Hot Air Murrayfield, whoever it's called. So, Ben, what was your take on this game? A huge blowout scoreline, but a game of 3 halves, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think that, we first 20 minutes absolutely flew at the traps, 4 tries within 24 minutes off the top of my head. And then it was very turgid for the 15 minutes before halftime, and probably the next 10 to 15 minutes after that, before I think the Fijian side probably tired and let Scotland kind of run over them the last 20 minutes. It was one of those games where it was a comfortable victory, but I still think if we play like that next Sunday, we'll get a bit of a walloping, I think, against South Africa. I think fair enough, there were some key players missing. Finn Russell couldn't play. Blair Kinghorn couldn't play. He's playing with Toulouse tonight. Hopefully he comes through that injury free, because Kinghorn is probably our marquee player at the moment behind Finn Russell. I think those two are on a similar level at the moment in terms of their quality they offer.
Yeah.
Ben White. Ali Price starting was an interesting one. It caused a lot of controversy through the week.
Yeah, that was a
George Horn not in the squad, just even on the bench. Jamie Dobie's been playing on the wing for Glasgow, and Ben Vellacott wasn't considered either. And I've been a little bit uncomfortable with Ali Price so far this season at club level, but Tooney obviously come out and said that he's the best Scottish scrum half on form at the moment. And I'm like, I don't know what games you've been watching so far, Gregor, because a lot of people are going to disagree with you, and there was quite a bit of disagreement with him on that. In any event, he started. I think his box kicking was fine. I think his distribution was fine. I just don't think he's quick enough or got that sort of ability now to play against the top tier nations. And I'd be interested to see. Ben White should come straight back into the squad and get that 9 jersey back next Sunday. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't, because he is. I think he's next level scrum half amongst Horn, Jamie Dobie, and Ali Price. And Ben Vellacott's obviously not going to make the squad at the moment, but I think overall, because it was obviously just a team of Edinburgh and Glasgow players, except for Dylan Richardson, whose Sale Sharks gave dispensation for him to play this weekend. It was a routine victory, but I think 3 parts to it, like you say, Hugh, very, very true. Darcy Graham and Duhan van der Merwe were, again, breaking each other's records. Darcy Graham equalled him, and Duhan was like, I'm not having that. I'm going to go get my 29th try and make sure I'm still a try ahead. The way they're playing at the moment, they could rack up 40, 45 tries to Scotland each, I think, the way they're playing, because they're just so prolific at international level. We've had this conversation. Duhan Edinburgh and Duhan Scotland, they're 2 different beasts. Darcy Edinburgh, Darcy Scotland less so. Darcy obviously benefits from playing with more Glasgow players when he's in a Scotland shirt, because we saw that with the 12, 10, 13 kind of try yesterday.
15 Glasgow players in the 23, which, to be fair, a lot of people would have said there should have been more on 4.
Well, I mean, apart from Darcy and Doohan, I would have been struggling to put another Edinburgh player there. Grant Gilchrist maybe, but after that, you probably could have made it up. Complete complement of Glasgow players. Johnny Matthews instead of Ewan Ashman. I'm not sure what Johnny Matthews has to do to get called up for that squad because he actually dominates at URC level. Whether Townsend just hasn't seen something in him that he wants to see, I don't know. He hasn't really been asked about it. He hasn't really given an answer either, unprompted. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on because I think Ewan Ashman might get cited this week for a head-on-head that went on late that was missed and wasn't TMO checked. So
but that was weird because it was very much shown during the game. We all saw it, but it was never checked. The TMO was having a biscuit.
And he'd already gone to the bin for just before half time it was just, he was the next person to commit penalty in the 22 and it was the sixth or seventh in a row and he was the one to walk for that 10 minutes. So it'll be interesting to see if he's cited for that and what would then happen with the squad because Dylan Richardson is very much a rookie at 2. He's not. I think it was his first cap yesterday when he came on. At the top of my head, unless he played a couple of games in the North America, South America tour. But
no, I think he just qualified, didn't he? Didn't he only just qualify recently? But he also played flank. He was playing flank for the Sharks, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Before we moved on to hooker, so yeah.
Yeah, but it's not. I suppose that's not unusual, but. Maybe he's just realised that to qualify for Scotland, the hooker is somewhere we're probably slightly weaker than other nations. I think it's somewhere maybe only really have 1 or 2 that are good enough. And I think Ewan Ashman, since he's left Sale to come into Edinburgh and come into Scotland setup, he hasn't really pushed on. I think his line-out for him wasn't great yesterday. It's not been good at Edinburgh all season either. Nor's Dave Cherry's, to be fair. And Dave Cherry's very much in Townsend's bad books after what happened last year when he fell down the stairs and had a concussion. No one knows why. We can make some guesses about how it happened, but anyway, that's where we are with him. But yeah, Adam Hastings really gripped that 10 jersey yesterday.
I was going to ask you about Adam Hastings because obviously I'll see if I can pull up the clip of the pass, but I wasn't convinced with him for Glasgow so far this season, but he had a field day in this one.
He did, and I mentioned in the WhatsApp group chat yesterday, Tupeloto out the back, and we've talked about this. Tupeloto is very much that player who'll look for the crash ball in the very last moment. He'll play that very acute pass out the back, and it's worked for Glasgow last season. It's worked for them again this season, and it was really good to see it being played international standard yesterday. And it did involve 3 Glasgow players. Hugh Jones then peeling off the back to then run through and dab down. But Jones and Tupeloto, they have to be the starting 12 and 13 pretty much every game that matters up, for now, because I think they both potentially have the chance to go on tour next year to Australia with the Lions. And Tom Jordan, it was good to see him get his first cap yesterday. Again, he showed his versatility. He didn't come on and play 10, came on and played 12, I think, or maybe even 13. I can't remember off the top of my head. Or maybe he went out onto the wing because Darcy Graham had to go for an HIA. But I think it just shows we've got that strength and depth in the back. So I'm just a little bit worried about our front row at the moment. I don't think our front row is going to be strong enough to deal with South Africa next weekend. And that's where it's going to matter.
Well, Xander Ferguson got a lot of penalties out of the Fiji scrum. I felt like across the board, Fiji massively got on the wrong side of Craig Evans. And to be fair,
early doors as well.
We have seen that in Super Rugby as well this season of the Drua. Just their discipline when it goes wrong, it goes like turbo. Oh my God, I've never seen anything like it wrong.
Yeah.
So there is precedent for that.
And that was the Druin team pretty much yesterday. And it was a Druin team.
The only player in the 23 who doesn't play for the Drua is the guy who plays for the New England Free Jacks, and he joined from the Drua this summer. He's yet to actually play for the Free Jacks.
So his last game was for the Drua. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it showed. They were tired, weren't they? I think.
So this is the pass from Adam Hastings for our YouTube viewers. So Anton Dupont did a behind the back try assist a few weeks ago, and I feel like people have been trying to do it since. Like, was this strictly necessary?
Yes, obviously.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Van der Merwe got his record back out of it, so he'll say absolutely it was necessary. But
here we go. Here's the good angle. Lovely.
Very Marnie-like.
You can't defend
you
can't defend a line like that. But Adam Hastings can only do that because of Tupeloto. You see Tupeloto's round the back pass there. That's something he's been, finessing for about 18 months now.
It's a bit of a France move that. France do that. Toulouse do that. Hugh Jones had another field day. I'm going to do a stats drop on him later. He was into everything. He got that, like you mentioned, very telegraphed intercept that was poor from Fiji, but he's starting to We all expect him to go on the Lions tour. Does anybody not expect Hugh Jones to go on the Lions tour?
No, I think
He's got to go.
Yeah,
I'd be amazed.
Has to. I think centre is kind of. I feel like now is a good time to do our Lions talk and just forget about it for the URC pods because it's international time. But for me, it's Ringrose. It's not Danny Order before anyone comes at me. It's Ringrose, it's Tuipulotu, it's Hugh Jones, and then it's probably Lawrence or Aki, if not both.
Ollie Lawrence did the square root of shit all against the All Blacks yesterday. So
we're not supposed to talk about that game.
Yeah, well, sorry. In the game that also took place outside of our broadcast package of what we can cover, it's like when they give you photos from a game on a news report because they just cannot show it. It's that kind of example.
Okay.
I think.
Sorry, go on, man.
Sorry, I think I'll be interested. I mean, it depends on who South Africa start at 12 or 13, but I'd be very interested to see the two of them up against Dialende and whoever else is inside or outside him. I think if Dielende's first choice next weekend, I don't know, Alan, you might be able to fill me on that. I haven't really seen the squad.
He's not injured, is he?
No, he's not injured. I mean, even if it's Andre Esterhuizen, I think it's a tough thing. But I think the three things I want to mention about the Scottish game is. Like you mentioned, the forward pack, I think, there's maybe a bit of fragility there. The second thing is that you've got a fly half who's doing those things. It indicates confidence and trust in the team around him and his backline. And with a team like Scotland, confidence is all important, isn't it? When things are sticking. The third thing that Scotland, it would have been really nice to see Fiji defend a bit better and put a bit more pressure on the front, that axis of 10, 12. And I think obviously that's something which the Springboks are going to target. And I think the rush defense, the way they're going to target them, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how, Hastings and the rest of the guys deal with that, see if they can get around it. But we know that the wings are lethal, but it's going to be really interesting. And like I said before in the chat, this is our second interpod game that we've had, and I took the first one by quite an extensive score, so I'm hoping for something similar in this game as well against Scotland. Looking forward to it.
It'll be interesting because I keep thinking about us playing, Springboks in the World Cup last year, and PSF Detroit absolutely choked Finn Russell out of that game where we were very, very rudderless and lack of direction. And Finn Russell himself, you could see the exasperation on his face before even half time. He was like, I don't know how to play around this. They couldn't, and we couldn't get the penalties on the front row either. Like there wasn't that breathing space that, good scrum management will give you. And it was just once those two options had been shut off, that was it. And I don't remember Van der Merwe and Graham really seeing an awful lot of the ball that game.
That was Marnie Libbok's defining game as well. That game probably bought him a couple more years in a Springbok jersey, that specific game, because after that game he was world beating and it got him into the Ireland game, which we all know what happened there. But it's two fly halves. Hopefully you're going to be full of confidence, and it is a way, and you guys can beat us, but you've played a game now. South Africa hasn't played a game yet, and we all know what happens when you got a bit of momentum going. We've only just come off training camp, so you should have a little bit of momentum going into the game.
The only concerns I have is that I think the three swaps in will be White for Price, Russell for Hastings, and Kyle Rowe, who did play pretty well yesterday, but he got an absolute hammering.
My God, he got
highball.
Absolutely pulverised by Nasila Sealer.
To be fair, he did get up again and take the next one, but he had a bit more time to take it. But then he went off with a hamstring injury, so that would be Kinghorn coming in.
Was it concern is hamstring injury? Like, oh, my leg. Take me off the pitch, please.
He did look a bit, worn out and, out of breath. But my only concern is Darcy Graham did fail an HIA yesterday very late on. So
did he? I didn't realise.
Yeah, he did. So again, it always seems to be the case whenever I go to Scotland or Edinburgh games is that Darcy Graham always seems to be injured or something's gone wrong. It happened when I went to Edinburgh Leicester in the Heineken Champions Cup 2 seasons ago. I don't think he played then, and I think there's been a couple of other games I went to. Both Edinburgh Cardiff games he's missed, so last season and the season before. I think I've only been able to see him a couple of times out of the dozen times he would have been playing if he was fit. So it'll be a real shame that he's missing, because after him, Kyle Staines injured. I'm not sure who else is probably good enough to be on either wing for the moment. Jamie Dobie's been playing wing for Glasgow, but he's kind of more of a utility back now. Whether you move Kinghorn round there and you put Hugh Jones at 15 and you change your centre, I don't know, but it's going to be a headache for Townsend if Darcy Graham if he goes to concussion protocols for next week. And I know he's got an extra day. We've got from Saturday to Sunday. It's not a Saturday to Saturday or Saturday to Friday, which does help. but I am a little bit worried about that because he did go off and he failed. So
is Kyle Steyn injured?
Yeah, he's not in the squad. I don't think he's in the squad at all. I think he's missed the last 3 or 4 weeks with Glasgow, actually, off the top of my head. Yeah, yeah, I'll have to double check that, but I'm fairly certain he's been missing for a few weeks now. He didn't go down to South Africa, I don't think, from memory.
Okay.
Feel free to correct me, but that's my only concern is that behind the two of them, if with Carl staying out, that if you have two of your three first choice gamers missing, it's going to be tricky.
One more moment I want to talk about in this game, which has lived with me ever since, is Darcy Graham's kick.
Oh, yeah.
So has Kaylin and Alan, have you seen this?
Yes, I called it at the time. I said he kicked it forward.
I was happy with it.
I haven't seen anything from this game apart from the Hastings.
You'll love this,
moment.
Kaylin. You're gonna love this. Is so Irish.
So there's a cross-field kick. I don't know what Alan means by that, but there's a cross-field kick from Adam Hastings off
it was a
penalty kick. So classic Darcy. Fiji go to sleep. Darcy Graham's hanging about on the touchline for the crossfield, catches him napping. So Darcy Graham catches it, as you can see here, and then goes to kick it. Misses it.
No, he doesn't miss it.
No,
he misses it every day of the week. He misses
it.
No, he doesn't.
He's touched it here. Come on.
And then it bounces and he kicks it with the other foot. And then the Fijian player falls off him. Fair play to Darcy. He stays in the fight and he goes on to score the try. Take my word for it, he goes on to score the try. Watch the ball. Right?
He touches that.
It's
not a kick.
And the TMO. It's a
there's a connection, but it's not a kick.
The ball doesn't move.
There was no.
He never touches it, boys.
I think he does. This is terrible for audio listeners. We're just watching the same clip.
There was no clear separation, so tries good.
There's no separation. He's dropped it, Ben.
Play it again.
He's not.
Play it again.
Kick it.
Wow, 1 second.
Last time.
It's there.
He's kicked it.
There.
No, don't say there, just like something happened. Nothing happened.
I think he touches it. I wouldn't call it a kick, but I think he does touch off it for me.
If people
I didn't see this live, so I'm completely
people were
neutral.
unhappy with that Lewis Rees-Zammit one against England getting another mention in the pod, where he drops it but he hits his leg, so it's therefore a kick and he goes forward. People say that should have been chalked off. This should have been chalked off by the spirit
didn't drop the
what
ball.
Is a knock on. This is a knock on.
By the spirit of they won by 30 points anyway, it should be chalked off. Yes, but let
game
the fun
state,
rule
okay.
count.
The game state.
The game's gone. The game's gone, lads. That's what it is.
Nice.
From a Fiji,
it was a great try. All 4 of Darcy Graham's tries were good because they were all different, and I think that the 8 tries they were all different tries. I mean, Darcy Graham, I think his 4th try, he just drove in off an inside line, he crashed ball and snuck under. But
that's very winger in confidence. That's the kind of try that a winger who just feels like they can do anything gets.
Yeah,
they just pop in places you wouldn't expect.
I mean, his stat line yesterday was outrageous, wasn't it? I think 6 line breaks, 6 carries, 85 meters off the top of my head. I think I saw, which is incredible running rugby. Yeah, I love watching him. I love watching him. He's one of my favorite players. I'll never
From a Fiji point of view, I'm a Fiji fan, obviously, and they're really disappointing. The first 20 minutes just couldn't have gone any worse. Like I said, completely on the wrong side of the referee.
2 yellow cards,
Couldn't figure out how to get back on his right side. The shod of obviously the international stars. Now, this Drua team, won the Pacific Nations Cup very, very, very easily. And now they've come up to this point. I was talking to Rugby Norse earlier, and he was saying that this Drua team hasn't played a team of that standard yet. So apart from maybe you could argue the top New Zealand teams in Super Rugby, but that's probably not even at test level at this point. So they've never played a game at this level. I feel like their centres really struggled. So players like Josh Tuasova, Wasen Natalevu, Semi Randrandra are going to make a huge difference for next week. And they're going to get props like Maui and I can't remember the other guy's name, plays with Bayon. He's going to come back as well. So that's going to make a big difference for them as well. But in that middle half, Fiji's phase attack was brilliant to watch and really caused Scotland a lot of problems. And there was
first try in particular, there
was a try that got ruled out for a forward pass where Mazzi, that's not his full name, I'm sorry, I can't remember his full name, gets the ball on the wing and just skips past 2 Scottish defenders like they're not there. So obviously we'll talk about Fiji's next game a little bit later on, but Fiji were just so so frustrating. They had the nightmare start, couldn't have gone any worse. And then when Darcy Graham got that 5th Scotland try, I think their heads just dropped and they started over chasing horribly in defence. Like
Got dog legs. Yeah.
Scotland would spread the ball wide and like 5 Fiji players would run to the wing to cover him, and that would just leave a huge hole in the middle of the pitch and things. So I don't think it necessarily reflects totally accurately on Fiji, that game. I think it was an ultimate nightmare game, and I think Scotland are maybe the worst possible opposition. Like if Ireland had played against Fiji, I think Fiji do better against Ireland's game plan than Scotland's game plan.
Because they have they've actually been a bad matchup for Ireland, and a small bit, maybe I'm misremembering. I feel like they've ran France into kind of sticky situations in years gone by as well. I feel like Scotland, yes, there's that kind of element of like, what's Scotland's attacking structure? It's like, fuck it, we'll do, fuck it, we ball. Like, that's kind of what Scotland do when they get going. And I feel like that doesn't suit Fiji. But then there's just that massive caveat. Like, the Fiji that we'll see in Dublin will have a couple more of big name players who, typically, you look at Tuisova, you look at Nike, Levu, guys like that. But yeah, they are difference makers for them as well. And it's probably the one game that I'd like to have seen be in the normal test window. Even more than, say, the other game that was on this weekend, for example, because I'd just like to have seen what a full strength Fiji could have done, because a full strength Fiji, they beat Australia last year. They beat, they ran England close last year. They really should have beaten Wales, last year. I think they'd have had a lot more confidence, but I think there is just that element of, look, we don't have the same guys, and like they do feed off those lads' leadership as well. So look, it's what's done is done. Scotland got their win. Scotland deserved their win by all accounts. And I'll take your word for it. But it's one game that I'd probably rather seen in a different weekend of the slate.
Here's a question for you.
Sorry, go on. Go on, Ben.
Yeah, I feel like maybe this is building on the try yesterday that Van der Merwe scored after that sort of Glasgow triumvirate of Hastings, Tupelotu and Jones's. Do you think that Scotland are Glasgow plus at the moment because of how many Glasgow players are in there? And they're very similar ways of playing at the moment. I feel like Scotland yesterday was just Glasgow on steroids. It felt like that yesterday.
I think it's more, I think that's what teams are noticing now, isn't it? Like, you're seeing that double down on one team. Like, England and Saracens were the first to kind of do it and do it successfully. It helps that, a lot of English players are absolute bastards to play against, and that Saracens team was full of them. And I mean that with respect. They were really annoying to play against. But I feel like that's the way rugby has gone. It's like it's become,
I think it's
cohesion is so important, isn't it? And like getting that flow, and like even take a midfield axis. If your centers play together regularly, and if they don't, you will probably notice the difference at least a couple of times in the test window, because that's the difference between the top center partnerships in the world. There's not a lot between them.
Yeah, I think that's going back to our chat about Hugh Jones. If Sione Tuipulotu is going to be Lions 12, that increases Hugh Jones's chance of being Lions 13 like threefold, because why would you break a working partnership up? So last thing on this game, we've given Darcy Graham a lot of flowers. I do just want to bring up his business decision that he did make in the second half when Ikaniveri was running down the touchline and Darcy Graham could have tackled him. He's in position to tackle and decides, no, I don't want to. And then Ikaniveri scores. So, you know what, Darcy? You did great things in this game, but you made a choice there, and we all recognise it. So before we go on to move on to our previews for next week, just want to remind everybody, if you are enjoying what you are seeing so far, please consider giving the show a like and subscribe. If you're listening on the audio format, please give us a 5-star review. If you can share a link with a friend and say, hey, this is great, that really helps the show grow. As Lee said earlier on in the program, it's had a really great start, and we really want to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, because that means we can monetize the show and actually not have to pay money to make it. So really appreciate all the support, and if you could do that, really grateful. Okay, so let's preview next weekend's games then. So, Kaylin, I know you're on time crunch, but fortunately for you, Ireland All Blacks is the first game on the roster anyway, at the incredibly normal kickoff time of 8:10 on a Friday night.
Do I have to start? I feel like I have to start with that massive elephant in the room. 8:10 on a Friday night. Now, I know you guys have been to Ireland sparingly, and that's fine. You know,
Friday night out in Dublin sounds like a great time to me.
It is. The only problem is there's no trains out of Dublin after 7:30. So you know what I mean. You're relying on extra resources. The train station's halfway across the city. It's a really annoying time for anyone who's in Dublin. And I have a couple of friends who are living close, and it is well worth. Like, if you can get a ticket, go. It is really frustrating though. It's like it's pub viewing. That's it. It's not, But anyways, that's not going to make a difference because it was 8 o'clock Irish time on a Saturday night last time these two teams played, and we all know how that went. It was one of the greatest World Cup games of all time. I think that's very fair to say. Look, Ireland need to win this, and I might be seen as being, the Kalon might be seen as being a bit negative when it comes to this podcast on Irish teams, but I can't get the sense on my head that if Ireland lose this, the year becomes less of a success, because it was about, right, let's keep the momentum from the World Cup by doubling down on winning, and then we can kind of rotate in 2025, and that's fair enough. But then if you come out of it having beaten France and beaten South Africa once, but losing to England, losing to South Africa once, and losing to New Zealand, I feel like it takes on a different complexion, because they won a Six Nations from the jaws of a Grand Slam. They beat South Africa from the jaws of two poor defeats, like great games, but they would have been poor defeats from an Irish perspective. This is must win. And now, again, elephant in the room. It's not as must win as this time last year. That was the one they had to win. That's the one they could not afford to lose. They could not afford for that World Cup quarterfinal curse to live on. They did lose. So there's the subplots on one side of the ball. Then you have New Zealand, who played a game this weekend that we have not talked about, got over the line by the skin of their teeth. Again, for New Zealand, they looked like they didn't know how to win. They looked like they didn't know how to get over the line, which is a massive issue for them. But they're going to be pumped up. I spoke to New Zealand journalists today for my own podcast, which goes out tomorrow if anyone wants to listen alongside this. And as he kind of said, everything changed for New Zealand Ireland when Ireland won down there, because no one wins in New Zealand. England haven't done it. Wales haven't done it. France did it, almost 2 decades ago. Okay, fair enough. South Africa do it, but they're practically the only nation in World Rugby at the moment that win in New Zealand. So
Argentina,
yeah, to be fair, but historically they haven't. So my sympathies to any Argentinian fan listeners. So I feel like this game is just a series of subplots. And look, it will be an unbelievable game to kick off the Autumn Nation Series calendar if it was the opening game, because of everything. For me, it's about 4 wins in this block for Ireland. For New Zealand, they need to win one of the next 2 weeks. Again, it's that thing. Like, New Zealand were the team who could not afford to lose any game.
New Zealand fans aren't confident. They're not confident.
And that's fair.
I wouldn't be either.
I don't think their performances showed that they should be. That's the side of it. Like, they were poor. Like, okay, for every joke about, the Times give England, a better overall rating player to player than New Zealand, so obviously England should have won. It doesn't work like that.
I could go on.
But they were right. That's the only thing. They were right. England outmanned them in many, many positions. Not
3
by a
tries to
lot.
1.
Yes, I understand that, but not by a lot. I'm not saying it was, a hammering.
But when it
that
came to the
England
clutch,
butchered.
it's the clutch. Well, yeah, it's the clutch moments that England couldn't execute.
That's ultimately what decided it. And Mark Telea's ability to score tries from anywhere, Will Jordan's ability to score tries from anywhere. The problem is, and we've seen this a small bit, was it the first game against South Africa or the second? I can't remember which, where if you do stop the Jordans, the Teleas from doing their moment of brilliance, where's it going to come from New Zealand? Historically, they had 23 players or 22 players that could do it. Now, I'm not so sure.
Odin Barrett.
Hoskins a 2-2.
Huge.
Oh, he's good, some player.
Massive absence. I don't think Odin Barrett has ever played a bad game against Ireland. To be honest, he just thrives against Ireland.
Not only that, it now means that they're going to be starting with DMAC at 10, and that's just going to make every problem they have worse. I'm sorry, DMAC. I think you're a great player at Super Rugby level, but you're not a kid playing for the All Blacks.
He's a great rugby player.
He's been around for a bit, and you're not the answer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing. I have to bounce them, so I just do prediction before I go. I think Ireland will scrape, but I think we're in for another epic, tense, physical. Ireland have some glaring issues because we don't have a fit hooker who's played more than half an hour of rugby. We've only one hooker in the squad who's played more than half an hour of rugby all season. That's an issue if there's ever been
Cody
one.
Taylor injured as well.
Cody Taylor's injured as well. Ireland's, loose-head prop depth behind Andrew Porter is obviously an issue. If Porter goes down, what happens? If Furlong goes down, what happens? Because Ireland's scrum got absolutely pulverised, but then New Zealand's scrum wasn't great at the weekend as well. Obviously Ireland's attack defence has all been talked about. Their system, the systems game that we kind of call it, this cohesive game. But this is probably the one game where Ireland have to win. And in games where Ireland has had to win, they have started slow. Grand Slam decider against England last year, World Cup quarter-final last year, Six Nations decider against Scotland this year.
Yep.
Typically, it does get to them. They do start slow. Cannot afford that this week. If New Zealand smell blood, then the confidence of scraping over the line, no matter how they did it, that confidence of scraping over the line yesterday, it kicks in because it's New Zealand and they have that wonderful mix of arrogance and belief that is just instilled in them for generations. I will go with Ireland, but I'm not as confident. I'm not as confident as I was for any matchup between these sides since Eden Park, essentially, since the 2019 quarterfinal. That's the best way of putting it. I'm not overly confident. It's not the New Zealand are great. It's that Ireland have to win. And that's pressure that Ireland have not necessarily performed up to. I will leave it at that. I hope that we get a great interpod rivalry between South Africa and Scotland. I don't know if I'll be able to see it. And I hope that Wales and Fiji is another great game.
The Lions and Munster are next, Caelan. So there you go. You've got one coming up soon.
We won't have to wait too long.
We're actually bringing out the prime 2015 All Blacks to play us next time around. So thank you for having me. But no, I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay, cheers,
I do think we'll get some cracking games, but we'll wait and see.
Okay, cheers, Caelan.
Okay, cheers, mate.
Cheers, Caelan. Catch you next week.
And then there were three. So I think Ireland are going to win comfortably. Especially with Bodie down, I don't think that if the All Blacks play like they did against England, I think Ireland are going to beat them quite comfortably. I don't think there's anything that we've seen from Razor Robertson's tenure so far that suggests to me that they can cope with what Ireland are going to bring. Don't know if anybody else disagrees.
Yeah, I agree. I think we know New Zealand know how to score tries, but I think bad management from England is what cost them that game. I think, I don't think Ireland will make the same mistake.
It's interesting, the All Blacks rugby, because I know they dominate Super Rugby and they have done for a number of years, but there just feels like there's been a bit. I'm not saying the All Blacks from the doldrums, but there's definitely been a drop off in depth and quality.
Yeah, 100%.
I still don't think they've got a great centre pairing. They don't have Ryan Crotty. He was sort of that last kind of like bastion at 12. I think the All Blacks have kind of struggled since to have someone strong enough in there. You just don't look at them and have that level of fear that you once did. And I think Argentina going across and beating them. It was in Christchurch, I think, wasn't it, off the top of my head? Wellington, sorry. Yeah, Wellington.
It's always Wellington.
It's never Auckland, is it?
No, it's very much never.
And winning in Wellington, and now that they've, I think that kind of set the tone for teams not having to be so fearful of them. As a Scotland fan, it's hard to see everyone else being the All Blacks because we still haven't been able to do it.
Your time's coming, don't worry.
It's coming.
Yeah, it just depends on when we next get to play them, I suppose.
Are you playing them? You're not playing them this autumn?
No, so we've only played them 3 times in the last 14 years. I think we've never had them in a World Cup group stage since, I want to say 95 or maybe 99 off the top of my head. And we played them in 2017 when Stuart Hogg was tackled by Bodie. We were 5 points down. And if he's gone over there, it's at least a draw, if not a conversion.
Was that when?
And then 2022, I went and we lost quite comfortably the last time.
Was that when Kieran Reid it was lying on the ground and reached up and slapped the ball out of someone's hand? The most blatant yellow card you've ever seen, but it was the magic All Blacks invisibility cloak and he got away with it.
Yeah, maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know it was an absolutely, like, Hogg is running in for a try at that point, and if he's clear, he's going under the post, and it's a straightforward conversion. But Bowden Barrett, that turn of pace he just managed to grab Hogg's ankles and tackled him, and the knock on came, and that was it. It was into 80 plus time at that point. So yeah, we were never going to be able to turn around. And then I remember the 2022 game. So I went to that a couple of years ago, and
All Blacks played a B team in that game.
But then TJ Perenara came on, and his ruck speed is incredible. Like you're looking at 2-3 seconds per ruck. Whereas I was actually watching it, and you see it more when you're watching it live. I think as opposed to watching on TV, is you see the ruck speed, and we just couldn't set for it because it was that half a second quicker. And I think that's what TJ Perenara is very, very good at compared to. I can't remember who was starting that day for the All Blacks, but TJ Perenara came on sort of like just before half time start, or maybe just played from the second 40. But his ruck speed was just phenomenal that day, and it allowed New Zealand to just kind of like pull away and win quite comfortably. Yeah, but they're not the team they were.
No, not for me. So moving on to the Interpod game, which is actually on Sunday, so we're not doing these in chronological order. But Alan, how are you feeling about the Springboks team? What is this one of the harder games in Test rugby for you guys now? You can't be going experimenting with the lineup? Do you want to see a full strength South Africa on the weekend?
I'd love to see a full strength South African team, but we've had a couple of injuries. I think this is going to be an increasing issue for us with the length of our season now. If you start including Currie Cup games, Russie's up to his stuff again, bringing in fly halves for props and all sorts of things. But yes, I'd love to see a full strength South African team. I think they're obviously very, very confident, but like I said previously, I do think Scotland have got a bit of momentum behind them. And the first game overseas, the first game when everyone else has had it up and running is a bit more difficult for us. But it's about stopping that 10-12 axis with us. And our defense is obviously a lot more robust than the Fijian defense. So I'm pretty confident. But I don't think that Scotland should be, they've got all the right to be confident as well. But because Russie is willing to experiment and he's willing to risk games for the greater good. So we've seen that before. And the first game overseas on tour is normally your best opportunity to get that win. I still think the Springboks should take it, but I think it's going to be an enjoyable game. I really do think so.
Who plays 10 for the Boks?
I think he might go with Marnie Lebok and maybe Pollard on the bench, and then Pollard might come out at inside centre. I think he'll be starting to think about Pollard Pollard will be that senior player going into the World Cup, so I think he'll go with Marnie Lebok. Marnie Lebok's confidence against Scotland is obviously really high, I think. So I do think they'll probably go with Marnie Lebok. I could be wrong. Who knows what Russie's thinking? But
they'll never make me stop loving Marnie Lebok. Will always be one of my favourite players.
Yes, he's awesome to watch when he's got the ball in hand. And when he's kicking it across field, he's quite good as well.
Although his kicking was all right against Glasgow. Unfortunately, Manny got a lot of heat after that game. I don't think it was Manny's fault by any stretch of the imagination.
But I do think they'll start trying to use Pollard as a 10. An inside centre. So I think.
Who plays 15? Fuzzy?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think he's got the jersey now, and I think they'll just take it. And they'll probably play with another scrum off. I don't know if they're going to go with the 6-2 bench again. I think they'll do something a bit more traditional. And there's a couple of. I think there's only like 1 or 2 new players in the squad. So it's going to be a forward orientated game. I think we don't know do we know what the weather's going to be?
It'll be cold. Yeah. Ben, it'll be cold.
Wait.
Well, I will be there, so I'll be able to let you know in real time. Yeah, I've got 2 tickets to go to Scotland, South Africa. I'm very excited about going. So yeah.
Okay, I think that's going to be a good one for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the only game. It's the only big game I've not seen us play live. Scotland. I've seen Scotland, England. I've seen Scotland, Fiji. Seen Scotland, All Blacks. Scotland, Australia. I've seen Scotland, England. So like, apart from playing Ireland, I've not seen us play South Africa, and it's like another one to tick off the list for me. So I'm like really pumped.
It's going to be good.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of individual matchups that I'm going to be really excited to see. I think Rory Darge up against Steph Tutoy. I think Kinghorn against Vassie, Russell against Lubbock. I think if DLN starts.
I'm excited for this now.
I think it's the game. I mean, I'm going to say this because I'm going, but I think it's the game of the weekend for me. I think there's more on it than. I don't know. I think that Ireland are going to be quite comfortable at the All Blacks, but I think we could turn South Africa Springboks over next Sunday. I've got a feeling. I think we've got an opportunity there. It's a free hit. And I think
you've got nothing to lose for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Virgin TV in Ireland are going to be clipping you up all over the place now. This typical Scottish picking themselves up.
Do what they like. I don't mind. But yeah, I'm excited to go, and it's a sellout. I got tickets back in February. They went within. It was the number 1 game for the Scotland fans to go to. I think because South Africa, a bit like the All Blacks, the one team we don't always get in the autumn test. We tend to get Australia most times, and Fiji. It seems to be Australia and Fiji, the two that we get almost every time, every autumn, whether outside of World Cup seasons. But this year, I think it's the first time I played South Africa in 3 or 4 years off the top of my head. So, yeah, I think it'll be a good test. And yeah, just Glasgow plus on steroids again, please. Like yesterday, I'd be happy with that. And then just see what the outcome is. But
yeah,
it'll be an interesting matchup for sure.
I think it'll be one of those games where Scotland score some very attractive tries and they play some great rugby, and maybe they leave a few tries out there, and then it gets to full time and everyone looks at the scoreboard and it's 24-22 to the Springboks, and everyone goes, how did Scotland lose that? And you go, well, they just did. So I think
you're right. It happened. That happened the last time as well. I think Villiers LaRue in particular just like really kind of like ground Scotland down. I think he might have scored a try the last time they played Scotland at Murrayfield. It was close, but it was like we looked like we were playing well, but there was South Africa were always just outside of touch and distance. And I think, yeah, you're right, Hugh. That's kind of the South African way of playing, is that they just seem to rack up points from places that we're not as good at doing. So, yeah, agreed.
But I am looking forward to it now. So what other games are playing? Italy against Argentina. So obviously not much dog in the fight here. What's people's views? Alan, based on the Rugby Championship?
Argentina. I think Argentina will take it. And I don't even think it's going to be that difficult for them. I think Argentina are probably going to win by about 10 to 15 points in that game.
Yeah, for me, when Italy had a really good Six Nations, Benetton were doing really well in the URC. This season, Benetton are really struggling. And I think there's an argument to say the Benetton squad is better than Italy's squad. Like when you talk about depth and you talk about like Albanos, who's playing for Argentina, plays for Benetton and things like that. And Benetton are really, really underperforming in the URC for me at the moment. And so they're coming into this off the back of not much confidence. They lost to Samoa in the summer. A lot of people not talking about that. So I feel Argentina should win, but Argentina are the classic team. Is just as everyone starts thinking they're good, they go and drop an absolute stinker. That's just how Argentina are. Ben, what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'd expect Argentina to win. I think Benetton have been misfiring. Menincello, Brax, Negri. They're the three kind of key players for Italy, I think, outside Garbisi and Capozzo. And I just haven't seen enough from them to suggest that they're going to be able to elevate the success level to beat the Argentinians. The Argentinians did have a good summer, I think, to beat New Zealand in Wellington. And, to go into that final round of games against South Africa with a chance to win the championship, I thought that was really impressive. And I think, it's good to see 4 strong Southern Hemisphere teams in that competition now, and Argentina not seen as a sort of poor little cousin.
Well, we do have Australia.
Yeah. And then the next comment is Australia is like, what will Joe Schmidt do with that team before the Lions tour next year? Is interesting. I don't know what's going to happen, because Super Rugby was an abomination for them. Melbourne have now gone. What are they going to do with 4 teams next year? How are they going to have the depth from 4 teams as opposed to Western Force when you just come back in after being in the wilderness for 2 or 3 seasons in between?
Yeah, Waratahs finished bottom. Yeah. So
it's the Brumbies pretty much, isn't it, that they rely on? Brumbies.
Well, actually, you say that it's not even. It should be the Brumbies should be the Glasgow of Australia in terms of the entire team's built around it. But it's not been that for whatever reason. Schmidt hasn't been packing his team with Brumbies. I'm not sure why. Will Skelton's back though.
Yes. Well, he scored a try off the wing, didn't he, last night? I think.
Yeah, it took 3 Stade Francais players
with him. Well, they were just hanging on his shirt tails, weren't they?
Yeah, but Stade Francais terrible. Anyway, that just unfortunately leaves for me to talk about Fiji versus Wales. All of the things that Scotland used to beat Fiji, I haven't seen Wales do anything like that in a very, very long time. How many test defeats in a row we've lost now? 9. So we'd go 10 in a row if we lost this. Fiji obviously ranked above us in the world rankings. They're going to be welcoming back Tuisova, Randrandra, Naithalevu. They could bring in the likes of Makela and Vanikolo, who are scoring for fun in the top 14 at the moment. Geez. I mean, I don't think Fiji are going to have another opening 20 like they had against Scotland. If they do, it will be unprecedented. I think the way that Wales play would play into Fiji's hands if we're going to play Warren ball. I don't think Fiji will fear that particularly. And Fiji have got some really nice phase play. If we play the experimental midfield of Ben Thomas, Mason Grady and Owen Watkin against Fiji, I think they're going to have an absolute field day. They'll just they'll smash through that. There's a lot of question marks over Mason Grady's defence at Cardiff so far this season. So I'm worried. And Fiji bringing back their star players, I think, and they've got a grudge to settle as well from the World Cup where they'll feel they should have won that game. So, and apparently they're really struggling to shift tickets for this game as well, is what I've heard. It's on a Sunday as well, which people in Wales don't like for whatever reason. Alan, am I being overly negative? Do you think Wales should win?
I think most Welsh rugby fans tend to be a little bit negative, but I'm always pretty optimistic when anyone's playing Fiji because
nine losses in a row. Fair enough, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, but I understand all of that. But you are playing Fiji here, and you never know what they're going to do. It could be the second minute, and there could be a red card, and then another red card 10 minutes later. You just do not know what's going to happen with them. They're disorganized. Their forwards don't work as a unit. It's basically just give me the ball and they run into contact and offload. And it doesn't work it works in sevens. It doesn't work in union. I think, I know they know how to beat Wales. But I think, it'll be I think it'll actually be I've been to watch them in the World Cup before when when was it in England? 2015. I watched the game Fiji against Wales and, it's a good game. It's always a good matchup to watch.
It's always an exciting game. It's always an exciting game.
You never. I want Wales to win, but because you do never know what's happening with Fiji. But I think Fiji probably just about have what it takes to beat Wales. But I would really love Wales to win that game.
How about you, Ben? Where do you see this one going?
I mean, it depends on the players they bring back in for next weekend and how quickly they can get back into a cohesive unit, because yesterday was disorganised apart from that sort of 15 minutes where they kind of threw caution to the wind. And I think maybe Scotland had tired of it after that, flying out the traps to 20 minutes. But it does come down to discipline for Fiji because they were down to 14 men pretty much after 5 minutes. Then they were down to 13 men for 30 seconds because the second player went off and then another player came back on. But you're right, exactly what Alan says. They've got to be more organised because it was pretty bad for them yesterday. So it depends on who comes in and whether they can sort of get the players back up to the level that's necessary. Because if we're beating them comfortably from that standing yesterday, I'd expect Wales to win comfortably as well.
But there's a difference between a team with confidence and a team with no confidence.
Yeah.
And you're going up against Fiji, and it's just they're like a hammer and anvil, aren't they, Fiji? If they see you coming, they don't run for gaps, they don't run for space, they're running straight at you.
They run to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The one difference from Wales now compared to the Six Nations is that the regions are doing better at the moment. So there is a bit more confidence. Obviously, Scarlet's 3 in a row. 3 of the 4 regions won last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that there'll be a bit more positivity and a bit more confidence, but it just depends because, things aren't going very well with Gatland at the moment. And
you even went and bought a new jersey, didn't you?
I did. You'll be seeing that next week. You'll be seeing that all over social media next week.
So what's going on with Gatland? What's the issue, do you think?
There's a lot of people think that his methods are outdated. He's had a PR disaster class since he's come back in, whether it's the Corey Hill thing, whether it's siding with the WRU on the whole strike action thing on the contracts negotiations. He's starting to come across as a bit of a boomer with, he's going on Simon Jordan's podcast and talking about woke nonsense and things. It's all...
Yeah, that's not healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all starting to turn a bit negative. His selections, on the Australia tour, straight up, I'm comfortable in saying he did not pick the best players for those games. He's not picking the best players available to him in their correct positions. He's playing a lot of players in the wrong positions. And he's saying it's all about the World Cup and things, but it's one of the big fallacies in rugby union at the moment with rugby union discourse is that people assume if your team is losing now, it means you're going to win in a few years. And there's no guarantee of that at all. So it's bad vibes all round with Gatland at the moment. And he's pissed absolutely everybody off. Absolutely everybody. And it's not a happy place under him. So, and then the attack has been non-existent. The attack has been absolutely woeful. Like, you think about how Australia were in the Rugby Championship, right? Before that, they had games against Wales and beat us easily. And that was earlier into Joe Schmidt's tenure than it was when they were getting absolutely ruined by South Africa or whoever it was. So, yeah. So it's one of those where I don't think I'll even be that sad if Wales lose, because
that's a shame. That's a shame. You don't want to feel like that.
Yeah, but obviously we've had all the stuff with the women's team in the week and stuff, so it's without digging up not even that old wounds. It's difficult to be emotionally invested into Team Wales at the moment as a fan. So, and some people will disagree, and if people are like, "No, I'm Wales till I die, nothing will ever change that," fine. No, I'm not there to argue with anybody, but it's difficult to feel represented by something that represents the WRU at the moment. So
I just want to say on a little side note to that, Wales is without a doubt, for anyone who's never been to the Principality Stadium and you're not a Wales supporter, if you're going to go watch a rugby game live there and they lose, you are going to have the best night. It's such a good location. I've never known a team to lose and be so chipper after a game. Now I understand after what Hughes just said, but it is an amazing place to go and watch rugby. It's an awesome location, and the people are really, really nice after a loss. So make sure you go and visit. Get tickets for Fiji. Go and check that out.
I mean, it's a proper city centre stadium, because I've been to the Arms Park too.
It's the best location for a stadium.
Walk out the stadium, you're into the high street, and then obviously the railway station's around the corner. But I went to the Arms Park last season, and Edinburgh won, and having a little wander around Cardiff afterwards. It's just really pleasant.
It's the best. It's the best location for a stadium. It's awesome. I love it.
It's a true city centre stadium. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of the show. I think we've run to an appropriate length of time, which is always nice. Not 2 hours this week, always good. So it just leaves me to thank my remaining panelists, the one who stuck out the course of the entire show, and remind everybody, if you did enjoy what you've seen, please do help us get to that 1,000 subscriber mark. We're really going for it, and we believe it can happen. We really want to get there before Christmas. Lee G might have to put his hand in his pocket and pay for another promotion on YouTube to get there, but fingers crossed. And share links with friends, and we will speak to you next week after the next round of fixtures. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
That was the United Rugby Rewind. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.